Hey man, how's it going?
Oh, not too bad. Snow happened, and then it all melted within 2 days, and snow happened slightly, and then it melted within 2 days. And now you can see the terrible lawn out front
Yeah,
with all the mud and the
the
dead
brown the
grass.
brown
And
grass, yeah. Not green yet.
we have bunnies in our two bunnies in our backyard, and
Nice.
magpies. So nature's around us now, and
Yep,
soon
they're
it'll be
coming
spring, and
back.
there'll be a whole bunch of baby animals around, along with predators to eat those babies. Ooh, scary.
Super scary. And yeah, welcome back everybody to Bite My Shiny Metal Cast, episode 2 of season 5, as it was on TV, Jurassic Bark. Yes, please like and subscribe if you love talking Futurama like we do. And yeah, here we are. We've reached an episode. If you recall, Mitchell, we didn't get him on this time, but if you remember, Andrew had mentioned in his first one that he did with us, this is one of those episodes that he remembers from when he was a kid, right? And the main reason of it, because you and I have talked about this and we've alluded to this in the past, this episode is fairly sad because of like the main information of the episode, right? The main detail of the episode.
Yes, it's
However,
about having a pet and
a pet
growing
that a pet, no, not just a pet, a dog,
a
right? A
dog,
loving dog that did something and like keeps like is the only one that ever really cared about Fry enough to even look for him,
which is
but
funny.
also, right? But also like just gets found and it turns out that he, dies the way he does, right? And things have changed and we know why, right? But we don't get it until the later in the series, right? So what do you think before we get into this episode? What do you feel when you watch it? Do you feel like still sad, or do you still feel like it doesn't really matter anymore?
I think I've watched this 3 or 4 times in the last 2 weeks, just because usually whenever I watch an episode for this, I kind of just drift over to the next one, and then I kind of forget about it, and then I go, oh yeah, just watch it again, and then I watch it one or two more times. But I still like the episode, and I will still take it at its value for what it is, rather than us going, well, because of
In the
this. In
future,
the future,
yeah.
this movie, what did this happen, and then this kind of undoes it, but not really, but yeah, kind of thing.
Hmm.
Because we see
We can kind of
Seymour,
pick at that a little bit, yeah.
which
Hmm.
is the dog, the character in this episode that really tugs at your
Yeah.
heartstrings. Um, we see him a couple times in the next seasons and stuff like over the course, whether it's real or fake or future past kind of thing. It's just fun to
Hmm.
see Fry and his dog, because it definitely does drive a little bit of the story for the first movie, but not
Yeah.
too much. But
Not too much.
I don't know,
Well, it's
man. It's
yeah,
just
yeah. And
we
and
can
there's some
talk about
interesting
during
like yeah, well, and we will. It's also interesting just to think about like what Bender says about the fossilized Seymour, and of course like how that references in the future. Of course, they wouldn't know it at the time, but how that references what actually happens to Seymour in the film
Yes,
afterwards, like how
yeah.
he becomes the way he is, right? But it is an interesting thing. So we will talk about it because I wonder if it's the timeline doesn't necessarily need to change that much with this, aside from the idea that Fry disappeared. But we'll talk about it. So the opening caption of this: not affiliated with Futurama Brass Knuckle Corporation or Company. Um, I don't know if there was actually a company called this. It probably wasn't. It's probably just a fun joke, whatever the
They
case.
mostly
But
are. Yeah.
yeah, most of them are for sure. But in any case, we open on uh, what is it called? Robot apartments or something? Robot friends apartments or something? Anyway, Fry and Bender's apartment building,
Yeah, the
and it
place.
turns out that Bender and Fry are, or Bender is practicing to do a magic show for like some kind of talent show or something, and Fry is his assistant, wearing like the leotard and everything, doing something with like a milk trick and everything, like watch the milk disappear and all this kind of stuff. And
Yeah,
Bender,
put it in a roll of newspaper,
you're
pour
right,
it in, and it disappears.
exactly. And said newspaper, once he's done with it, throws it into the trash, and Fry sees that they have a new exhibit thing going on because they've just uncovered, like some archaeologists have just uncovered a 1,000-year-old pizzeria from old New York that, kind of makes Fry like kind of nostalgic for his time working as a pizza delivery boy. So he convinces Bender to go with him and they go check it out at this museum, right? At this museum, I think it's just called Treasures of the Stupid Ages. I just can't help but pick on the year 2000, but for good reason. For good
Oh
reason.
yeah. Just before this, Anthony was commenting on all my jokes were from the year 2000.
Yeah, the stupid ages.
Yeah, yeah. The stupid age is like my
Yeah.
internet wasn't being very good, and I'm like, yeah, sorry, it's still on dial-up.
Yeah.
which is kind of an early 2000s
Someone's on the
thing.
phone. Yeah.
Yeah, someone's on
Like,
the phone.
all those issues that people had back then, man. It's so silly nowadays that
like
people
like
complain
like those
about
were
nonsense. Yeah.
those were first world problems back then. Imagine
Yeah.
them now. Like,
Yeah.
oh no, the Wi-Fi turned off. I can't connect it with my phone. Oh no, I'll have to
Oh
use my
no.
3G.
Yeah. I have to plug in my mouse into my computer.
I
What is
still
it?
plug in my mouse on my computer. I
Me
hate
too.
Bluetooth crap.
Yeah.
It it
Sometimes they
it,
just
it
die on me. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it sounds great in theory because honestly, my personal biggest pet peeve in the world is when I'm listening to music or something like that, and I'm quite tall, so my hip area is quite at a lot of doorknobs or handles of drawers and stuff, and so
Sure.
my cord will get caught on them, and so it turns me from 0 to 100 instant rage. So I got Bluetooth for a while, no problems, but guess what? They run out of battery within 20 minutes now because just that's how batteries are.
Oh, sure.
That's today's first world problem. The battery said 5 hours, but it only lasted one.
That does
Uh.
suck. Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Um,
my tangent for the stupid ages and now stupid things.
Yeah, and we're 25 years after the stupid
Yeah,
ages
we're
of this
25.
episode, so it's funny to even think about it. But you're right. There's a lot of stupid things, and they uh correctly say so here. But in any case, they get to this museum with this exhibit and everything. We see some fun little visual gags or whatever
I think
about
there's like
the
cod
time
pieces
that
or something like that.
cod pieces of like of the council or something. Like it's a
Yeah,
political
yeah,
thing. Like all these old
like
white guys.
yeah, the Declaration of Independence, those people kind of thing. I think that's what it
Right,
was.
right. Well, just government officials and their cod pieces or something, and then there's some other little visual gags of it. But yeah, it's funny. They have some fun stuff there. So in any case, they go into this museum where it is, and it's all set up, and Fry's going around. We could talk about it in our like funny scenes or whatever. I think this one's pretty good for me, but it's just the lady who's like doing a tour, right? As she says, she's like, "Oh, I'm just a stay-at-home mom or whatever, and I have like 20 minutes or 45 minutes of orientation training, and I know what I'm talking about." And they talk about like the wood panel or the wood like the what's that called? The pizza
I don't know.
serving platter or whatever.
Pizza,
Or like
the pizza spatula that you take
flipper, right?
the dough and put it in the oven and stuff like that.
Right.
I can't remember its
what she
name.
calls it, but in any case, she says like I think it's just called a paddle or she uses it as a paddle or says it was used as a paddle to like paddle the delivery boys when they weren't good enough or something.
Which had red hair like Fry, but
reminds
a little
Fry,
different.
right?
Yeah.
But it's funny because in that instance, even though it's funny to us how ridiculous it is because we're from that time, they're 1,000 years in the future. So it's like knowing something from the year like 1025, right? It's hard for us to fathom like, oh, okay, what exactly was this item used for or something, right? Without it. So if you had somebody from that time time travel to the time now and tell us, oh, that's not what that was for, that would make more sense to it, right? But just in
good
our
example,
mindset, it's funny. Yeah.
A good example that comes to mind for me was back in like bow and arrow ages kind of thing, like knights and kings and stuff like that. Some guy got shot in the face with an arrow, but they didn't have an arrow extractor back then. So a blacksmith actually had to make something, and it took us forever to figure out what the hell it was until someone read that one little passage about this one prince or whatever from France or whatever back in like the 1500s or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, well now we know what this was made for. It was used to make extract an arrow from someone's body without doing extra damage, because back then they had to cut things out and cut things off in order to get things out, because
Yeah,
medicine.
we didn't have the tech back then, right?
No,
so yeah, makes sense.
And like it's even funnier to like other people like kids of like people our age who have kids. Those kids are like 10ish now kind of thing, right? And they'll go, "What's this?" And we're like, "That's a VHS tape." Do you know what that is?
Or what's
and that's not all that long ago.
It's a rotary phone, which was like a long time ago, but still, like a lot of people don't know what a rotary phone is. Like if you don't know what a rotary phone is, you can look it up and then try and use it. Because
and then when someone's attacking you, try and dial 911.
911 on that.
While.
Yeah. Good luck. Yeah. So, any case, I thought that was funny just to think about
old technology
in the mindset of that. Yeah. But any case, yeah. So we have this little robot thing of this chef holding the pizza platter and then like just hitting this delivery boy on the butt.
With his pants down. That's funny.
Yeah.
That's such a weird visual.
It's just a weird thing. So, any case, Fry looks at this robot situation on there, realizes the red hair, kind of takes it in. He's like, oh, that kind of looks like me, kind of reminds me of me. And he looks around and it realizes, holy crap, this pizzeria is actually Panucci's Pizza. This was his pizzeria. So he actually knows what everything was used for with Mr. Panucci and everything. And it turns out Mr. Panucci did actually used to abuse him with it.
Paddle his butt.
Yeah, just a little bit. But in any case, he recognizes everything and even recognizes all these items that they have on display for this pizzeria exhibit. One of them happens to be a fossilized dog, which turns out to be Fry's. At this point, nobody's known about this in the story. He had a dog. So we get a flashback of Fry delivering a pizza to a fake person or whatever. Happens to be called
Seymour Asses.
Seymour Asses. And so when the guy I do like the guy on there is like, I hope you realize how stupid you are. And
Fry's like, I doubt
think about it. Yeah, he's like, I wouldn't count on it. So anyway, Fry takes the pizza after the guy says there's nobody by Seymour Asses. He sits in an alleyway, and we meet this little dog. And it turns out this dog is only like a year old or something, not even. He's like scrawny and like obviously underfed and all this kind of stuff. He's hungry, stray dog. So Fry takes pity on him, gives him some pizza, and calls him Seymour Asses, for the sake of it. And they kind of develop a very strong bond, right? It's a boy and his dog kind of thing, and it's actually quite nice. So Seymour kind of becomes part of Fry's life. So back in the present or the future, Fry angrily, as he realizes this is his dog, angrily tries to steal
his dog back.
Yeah, Seymour dog, fossilized dog or whatever, right? So he uses Bender, kind of breaks the glass or whatever, and he tries to do it. However, he is forcibly removed by the security and he can't get his dog there. So back at the HQ, Fry tells the crew of what happened, and the professor recommends that he protest. Okay. So as he does, he returns back to the museum later, and for a couple of days he starts doing a dance that again, this is kind of a funny thing because Leela's reading a book that says like tribal dances of like the Bronx or something, which is of course like it's just talking about like, 1,000 years ago, for them, people nowadays used to dance to like get gifts and bring rain and do all this stuff, like what we would sing with like Native Americans or something.
Hey, don't knock it, man. I did a rain dance on my native land and it rained a day later, but
but you did it, right?
Yeah, well, it was dial-up internet, but like for dances back then.
Sure. Just took a while.
Because I was like 13 at the time, so it was still probably dial-up at that point. And nowadays it's 3G or 5G or whatever. So yeah, if I did it then, now it'd be instant.
You get it, right? Yeah. So anyway, Fry's like trying to do this dance and doing this whole thing. I don't actually recognize the music, but I do want to pull out.
It's like the hustle.
The hustle. Right?
Do.
Something like this, right? So I do want to mention as well, though, is that this is also not really evidence, but it's just showing more continuity that Fry knows how to dance and he knows how to do all these things, right? Because he was part of like a dance group and this whole thing back in his youth, right? So it is kind of cool to see this is like still Fry, like this is still his thing. We don't really get to see Fry doing the stuff he used to do when he was like back in the 20th century. Right?
That's true. Yeah, that's very true. Like we don't see him do much dancing and stuff like that.
Yeah, we don't.
He does mention things.
Yeah,
but like those. I'm a very good forager. Like finding those mushrooms in my bathroom, kind of thing. Like he'll mention things, but he won't like show him actually doing the skills or whatever he learned from back then, other than just being a delivery boy.
Right.
And even then, he
barely does
that. Yeah,
he doesn't do that anymore. So yeah, it's something we're kind of lacking from future seasons. But this is kind of nice just to see that this continuity of Fry was once. I wouldn't call him cool, but he was like part of a group, right? He was part of this was his hobby. This was him, right? So any case, as he's doing this, another flashback happens, and we see Fry singing a catchphrase. I think this is the third time now, is the "Walking on Sunshine."
Yeah, I was looking for
and it turns out that Seymour also can like not sing it. Obviously, he's a dog, but he kind of like growls it or like barks it or whatever. It's kind of cute. And Panucci also seems to really like Seymour. They kind of like take him in as like a mascot and everything, and they keep him around.
I always hate watching this part. I always hate because I'm squeamish when it comes to like food. Yeah, when it comes to like food stuff. Like I don't like my own hair in my food, let alone someone else's. So dog hair and 3 things that he can do it while swimming in a soup. Ugh.
And it shows how disgusting Panucci's pizza actually is. It's also funny as well as that remember the episode, although mind you this is a What If Machine episode, but remember when with Stephen Hawking and they show up there for like with the if Fry didn't go to the future, right, in the first one.
A fry hole.
with the fry hole, and Stephen Hawking shows up and he's, what's your usual? And he's like, I want whatever is like not bad or something. Like it just goes to show there's more added to Panucci's pizza that way. So I thought that was kind of a funny little callback as well, a little bit of a callback in my mind. So back in the future, Fry continues dancing, but Leela stops him and says, like, it's been like 3 days. Like, you're not going to get your dog back. There's no point in this. You can't keep on doing this. You're going to come down with some kind of cold or fever or whatever. However, as he's finishing up, the archaeologists who discovered Panucci's pizza 1,000 years like later from there, right? Like the ruins of Panucci's pizza show up.
Have we seen this guy before?
Because
I know we've seen him later. I know
we definitely see him later. We see him later because I think he is. I
don't know what his name is.
I can't remember his name either, but he does have a shirt or something. Though, mind you, this is like way in the Comedy Central run. I think it's like Fry saved his life.
Episode or something. Yeah. Paleontologists really dig me or something like that.
There we
Girls
go.
really dig paleontologists.
That's what it is. Yeah, and it's like right. So we do see him in the future. This might be the first time we see him now, but he does show up kind of in the background of things. Like he's just like a typical nerd character. Right, like
once they have a character model of a person, they'll use that, because I swear we've seen him more than just those 2 times, and I don't want to say this is the first time we've seen him, and I can't find his character name in the thing, so he's not that important. But the thing is, I need to know.
Yeah, and he's not the whale biologist, right? That's a different guy as well. So
similar voice, I would say. So probably one of the voice actors does it.
Oh yeah, for sure. So any case, he comes down with another archaeologist. Oh,
his name is Dr. Ben Beeler.
Beeler. Okay.
Yeah, this is his first episode. Yes.
Oh, it is. Okay, there you go. So introduce an introduction to him, because he does show up in later episodes as well in very minor roles, but he does show up. Any case, he and another archaeologist come down and they tell Fry, like, listen, I'm sorry, we can't give you your dog because there's so much we can learn from this dog from your time. Like there's a lot of stuff here, and that's super true. I completely agree with him. Like there's a lot of stuff you could learn from, like a specimen 1,000 years fossilized as perfectly as Seymour was.
We keep finding them like full on, like fully
fossils of any form.
Not full wool, furred wolves. Like we found like a baby wolf or something like that still had some like furry rhino in its stomach, of all things, and that was a while ago. But we keep finding these things just because of fossils are so weird, man, because they are so random.
Now, Fry there hears him and he's like, okay, you're right. Like Seymour was like this, and he liked to do this, and he gives a little bit of information. And
chased the number 12 bus.
Yeah, number 12 or 29, whatever it was. Yeah, some bus. And the other archaeologist says like, oh, it was the 29 bus. Oh, that's all we need. That's all we need. You can have your dog back. So that was kind of brushed away. But I do like that little, subversion, I should say, just like, here you go, you can have your dog back. So Fry doesn't have to fight for him anymore, so he gets his dog back. Fry gets to have Seymour back. Now back at the HQ, we have Bender continuing to do his magic act. Okay, now of course, since Fry has been taken away due to his commitment with Seymour and everything, he's had Zoidberg fill in for him, but Zoidberg is like the worst assistant because he keeps giving away the trick. Mind you, only gave one
I like
trick,
magic too. I like to kind of like it's when you figure out the trick, I like to share the fun with everyone. So I'm like Zoidberg, where I'd be bad.
You are bad for that. Yeah. So, and he goes, Fry enters with the professor, and he announces that they can actually clone Seymour. All right, they can drill something into him, take a little bit of his DNA, and they can actually do the same cloning process that the professor used on himself to make Cubert. I love
this little thing, because there's a phrase here. Yes, because he fossilized.
Fossilized.
There's a little bit of dog nougat in the middle there, which I'm like, ugh, because I love nougat, but as soon as you put the word dog in front of it, you're just like, ugh.
That's kind of weird, right? I'm happy you brought this up, not for that reason, but I'm glad you brought this
not because of food,
the food thing. But it's actually interesting, because so jumping ahead a little bit, because we'll get to this point afterwards. He says flash fossilized. Now, in the flashback, for when we hear, like, when we see Seymour doing while Fry has disappeared, we never actually see how this happens. We're led to the illusion, right? We're led to the illusion that Seymour died of old age waiting for Fry, right? And he just passed away. However, this dog, right, the Seymour sculpture fossilization thing, is clearly him standing and like being prepared for something. So unless he was like super old and stood up for 1 second and then some kind of other explosion. So for what happens in the movie, it makes more
Person.
sense for Seymour to have done this in this context than it would have been for how we see him in this episode, like how he supposedly dies. So my theory is this has kind of led you to believe what Seymour was doing at that point, or that flashback was just showing you like Seymour was just kind of going to sleep. He finally gave up looking for Fry. He's not actually dead.
Oh,
He's
at
just
the end
kind
of
of
the episode here.
at the end of the episode. But I digress. That's just kind of my thought, because it's definitely like, why would they show him dying when he's standing up in this like frozen fossilized way, right? So, any case, I'm just
the
glad
whole fossil thing of like they don't fossilize standing up like that. That's gotta be fake.
Right. But unless he was flash fossilized, which the professor just mentions, right? Which means from an explosion, for example, like somebody might do to him in the past, right?
By trying to kill Fry, missing.
While trying to kill Fry. So, any case, the professor explains about all this kind of stuff, and Fry is super happy, but Bender seems to starting to be very sad and jealous that Fry is paying more attention to him
Typical
than
Bender.
to Bender, right? Very much like a Bender thing. Now, the professor sets up his old cloning machine, okay, for Seymour, and he states that he'll be able to not only just bring back a clone of the dog, but he'll also be able to get his memory back, which is kind of cool. He can do some kind of CAT scan, no pun intended.
Oh, I do love that phrase. We could do a dog cat scan.
A dog, yeah. Dog cat scan.
There's a lot of those little clever little things like that this episode.
There was, especially when he's getting everything ready, right? So it turns out though that the machine, unfortunately, needs to be recalibrated. There's some kind of issue with it, so they have to wait a little bit longer in order for them to do so, which gives some time to kind of set it up. But
what was that toy called?
Oh, like the dog says "woof woof" or whatever.
It was like a rotary phone.
Yeah,
but for children, you pointed to it's
a baby. Animal. Yeah, it's a baby. Like what sound does an animal make? Machine, but it's like I don't know what you would call that thing. But yeah, some kind of rotary little. You hit the string and then it goes. The cow says, right, like this kind of thing. Yeah. So
growing up, I remember I had one of those, and then I found it like 10 years later or something like that, and of course the sound bite had like started to die, so it was like. It was awful. It was like nightmare inducing for like a 12-year-old me who should know better at that point to play with demonized materials.
Right. So another flashback to the night that
1999.
Fry disappears. 31st. We get another opening. This is, I think, the third time we see this shot, I think.
Yeah.
Right? From a different perspective, a little bit. Right. We get a little bit more because Seymour is there, retroactively put in there. And so, we have the whole thing, like Fry playing Space Invaders and the kid, right, saying, you suck, loser, whatever. Yeah.
I love this. As an animator, I love this because it's reused. And guess what? You just take and plug in. And usually 90% of the time, they don't like, especially for like a walk cycle, just take that from this episode, plug it in. It works fine. You do that. You send it in like, nah, it doesn't work. You need to fix it. And you're like, but I love it when you can just, you do reuse because you get paid for it regardless. Because you're like, that was 10 seconds of reuse, 10 seconds worth of or 10 animated seconds worth of money, please. So
that's crazy.
So there's lots of reuse for this episode because there's a lot of stuff that they reuse.
A lot of things from that they use in the past, right? Yeah, that's really good.
But they do add Seymour in it, so that is extra. But still,
they do add Seymour, and not only is that, but we also have Seymour. So Seymour is clearly there, trying to prevent him, and then even Mr. Panucci adding more dialogue, like, why is Seymour acting so weird and like pulling on your legs and all this kind of stuff, like what's so strange. And so Fry says, don't worry, Seymour, I'll be back soon. Wait for me, right? And we didn't mention this beforehand, but Seymour always had a habit of waiting for Fry in front of Mr. Panucci's, right? That's kind of one of the sad things. He's always waiting for him. So Fry does his delivery, of course, to Icy Wiener, as we all know. Icy Wiener, of course, in the cryogenics lab. And it turns out, no Icy Wiener, blah, blah, blah. And what we see in this flashback is Nibbler's eye, right? In the trash. Very briefly, yep. And under the table of the desk, in the original one, we see that there is just the one shadow as Fry falls back in his chairs there. However, a new shadow has appeared, which is alluding to something later in the series, which will be the episode of Why of Fry. Who could it be? But that's not the main point for this episode. But just so you know, the time has already changed. Timeline has
Continuity.
already changed. Yeah. Yes. So
They
falls into
thought about stuff like this.
They did. They absolutely did. So Fry falls into the cryogenics tube and never comes home, right? And Seymour's the only one that seems to be missing him. So back in the future, Fry is setting up his apartment with a bunch of dog stuff. Now, as he's doing so, Bender walks in, asks like, "What's with all this dog stuff? I don't need this, and we don't need this," or whatever. And it turns out he doesn't quite understand that Fry is preparing for the dog. So Bender's actually getting more and more fed up and upset with the fact that Fry is caring more about the dog than he cares about Bender, who he believes to be his best friend. So we get one more flashback, and we have Seymour trying to warn Fry's family the day after he disappears, saying like, yeah, Fry didn't come back, so he barks his walking on sunshine to alert them. Any case, Yancey, I keep calling him Yancey Senior, but technically he's not Yancey Senior, right? He's like Yancey the Third or something, like the father, right? Fry's dad says like, oh, it's probably Y2K. Y2K got him, even though he doesn't quite understand what Y2K is, but Y2K got him, and it doesn't matter. He like, who knows what happened to Fry? He's just not going to be here for brunch. We'll just eat it without him, and that's basically it. Yeah, you're gonna say?
John on IMDb
Johnny
says
Maggio,
that Johnny Maggio playing Yancey Fry Senior, and then I keep
his
forgetting
brother's
about
Yancey
this,
Junior. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and played by Tom Kenny, SpongeBob.
Yeah,
I always forget that. Like, it's every time I'm like, oh really? It was Tom Kenny that played. I'm like, I should know that. So he had a small little cameo.
No, to be fair, I forgot it was Tom Kenny myself, but I know it's not one of the main cast because he's not in all the episodes, right? But yeah, he does play Fry's brother. So
Yancey Junior.
Yancey Jr., as we'll call him from now on then. So Back in the Future, Fry puts a dog bed in the HQ. You know, he's going to basically Seymour is just going to go everywhere with Fry. He's going to be in every single thing he does, his work, his home, everything, because he loved that dog. He loves that dog so much. So Bender then comes in with his own dog, Robo Puppy, to try and make Fry even more jealous of it. And he does like all these things. And it's honestly, these things are kind of annoying. I think they were a thing at the time.
Yes.
If you recall.
My younger brother did get one for his birthday or Christmas or something like that. And I honestly don't remember. Yeah, they do bark. Yeah. But I don't. I think they actually had a volume control or something like that. Because obviously, as people we know as parents or parents sometimes, you don't want your kid to have a loud toy because they go hit that button every time. And like kids loves like just they can focus on something.
Be annoying, right? Yeah, exactly.
Like, and oh my God, there's so tickle me, tickle me, Elmo.
Right.
Kind of thing, right?
Right.
So just
the cow says like over and over again. You'd be like, ooh, this is driving me nuts. But in any case, yes, the Robo Puppy with Bender
either
is
I
just kind of a
throw it
funny
out or
little...
I take out the batteries.
Yeah, exactly.
Throwing out the kid is wrong, so I'll take out.
But you cannot, and as Bender does later, you cannot kick the Robo Puppy.
Yeah. Robo Puppy mistreatment alert. Robo Puppy mistreatment alert.
That's a pretty funny scene, actually.
I do like that. Yeah, I put that up as for some reason my favorite joke. I don't know why.
Fair enough. So any case, as Fry and Bender are having this conversation, and Leela and Amy are also doing like this. Like this, I don't know what you call like sexy wrestling, but they're trying to like train each other for whenever a gun gets knocked out of their hands. So you like sci-fi, like Star Trek or something.
Yeah.
But they're wearing like scantily clad outfits, and they keep these outfits for the rest of the episode as well. So
they do, yeah.
Kind of funny.
I do want to know if they had a censorship issue, which would not be much of an issue because it's adult. And like mind you, it's skimpy, not lewd, I would say.
Yes.
But for some reason, Amy is wearing like I don't know what to call them, compression shorts. But Leela isn't, like basically like a one-piece bikini with extra holes cut them to be suggestive. But then
Leela starts to rip hers apart afterwards.
Yeah.
So it doesn't. I think they kind of balance out. Yeah. So any case, the professor's hologram head shows up in the main room because apparently it does that as well. So maybe we see this in the future. Yeah, it's a Jor-El thing. So in any case, the professor says like, "Hey guys, we're ready to go. Meet me in the area where the cloning machine was, or whatever." So they all go. And that's when Bender kicks Robo Puppy. But later in the evening, the professor uses he announces that he needs to use nature, basically like the power of nature, and you're led to believe it's going to be lightning because of the sky. Like there's a sky. What do you call that? Like not a skylight, but like an opening.
Hole.
Yeah, it's an opening in the ceiling or whatever to let the lightning come down. Because he actually does use this in the future as well, like in the Comedy Central run. But for this case, he's like, no, I need to use the molten lava. And we get to see the first time geothermic power, right? We get to go to the Planet Express's sub-basement. So they have an accusing parlor, an angry room, which we'll come to see later, their HQ, his lab, the ship harbor, and a sub-basement, as well as like a number of other, and even the professor's like apartment, right? Because he lives there too. The kitchen, like there's a lot of rooms in this building that you don't really get to see.
The chart room, which we've only ever seen once, and they even acknowledge like, yeah, here's a chart for how often we use this room. There's only like one. Yeah, right. that was a Comedy Central.
That's a Comedy Central one as well. Yeah. It's very similar to like the ship's basement. Like you only ever see it like one time. You're like, oh, this place has a basement. But yeah,
that's when they got Nibbler, right? The cargo bay or whatever of the ship.
That's a cargo bay. No, there's actually a ship's basement. That's when it's with when Bender and Amy start a relationship, because they get those twisters or whatever, and the professor wants to bring them into the ship's basement, and it looks like an actual basement, but it's in the ship, but it doesn't really matter because it's like above ground. Whatever. Any case.
Yeah, that's a
yeah. So any case, they go to the sub basement and they bring, I think it's called the chronomat, the machine. So he sets up the chronomat.
I'm gonna cut you off right there. I love this because as they're lowering down, you see Scruffy in the sub basement, and he's like the lever person.
Yeah, the pulley.
Like pull the pulley, using the pulley to go down.
The professor uses like a little not a joystick. What is that called? Like a little control panel.
Switch.
Right? He switches it down, and it looks like they're going down because of that, but it turns out it's actually.
It was just Scruffy. Yeah. And then another thing I love about this one too. Professor's like, I'm going to use lava, the geothermic lava, and there's an outlet on like this little like lava volcano thing, and he just plugs it in. And I freaking love that because that's just so stupid, because it's like plugging into a tree and just I'm using nature, the power of nature. Yeah, it's just so funny.
Lava. That is super fun. You're right. It's absolutely funny. Yeah, I forgot about that. You're right. Yeah. So he does.
There's a lot of little jokes like that in this one. This is one of the ones where there's a lot of little jokes.
Which is like and they're not just like the visual ones. It's like you mentioned beforehand, right? Like the dog cat scan and like how they're getting all this stuff, right? There's like little play on words and everything. It's just like
who wrote this
dog
episode?
God. Yeah, take a look and see.
Eric Kaplan.
Eric Kaplan, sure. He was a well-known writer for the show, right?
Job,
So anyway, as he's getting the DNA and he's taking out from Bender and all this kind of stuff, it turns out that not right away. They don't find this out right away, but as he's getting the DNA and everything, Bender arrives in his magician outfit, because he and Fry were supposed to do it at the talent show or whatever. We just saw him like practicing. However, as he's doing this, he calls out Fry for spending way too much time doing this and not helping out because he's his friend. And Fry basically tells him to, F off, because I don't care about this. I want to get my dog. Bender angrily says, like, fine, you want to be like this. And he takes Seymour and he throws him into the molten lava, thus like making him think that he basically like melted away and he's gone forever. Fry is absolutely devastated. However, the professor states that this fossil happened to be made of something called dolomite. Okay. The point is that it's incredibly resistant to heat. And as the professor says, it's not 100% proof, but it is like there's a slim chance that the dog, because it's surrounded by the dolomite, it should be able to have resisted enough for them to get the DNA if they can get to it in time. So because Fry is so determined to save his dog, he rips off his clothes and is about to dive into the molten lava. At this point, though, there is one more flashback.
He'd do it for him.
Because he would do it for him, right? Because Seymour would do it for Fry. So there's another flashback this is the second last flashback of Seymour, and he is looking everywhere trying to find, or not the second last one, sorry, like I think the third last one, but he's looking everywhere for Fry, and he's sniffing around. He goes to places where they look for like a missing guy picture. He goes to a place where he gets his hair cut, Panucci's Pizza, all this kind of stuff. And wouldn't you know it, he finds the cryogenics lab, and he figures out that Fry was there because he can smell him. So he sneaks into the cryogenics lab. Flashback to the future. Leela and Amy save Fry from, jumping into molten lava. And they're like, you can't get him back, Fry. There's nothing you can do. To which then Bender sees how sad Fry is. And he's like, okay, I see now why you care about this dog so much, because it's like how I care about you, implying that, Fry is a dog to Bender kind of thing. So Bender says, I'm going to go in after him. But then the professor says, like, you can't because you're not, it's dolomite. That's the only reason it might survive. Bender's like, he does his classic, I'm 40% X thing. And he says, in this case, I'm 40% dolomite. And he dives into the molten lava. Now, second last flashback here, we have the cryogenic scientists at the 2000s time had called the fries.
1999, 2000.
Yeah, no, 2000, because it's the day, a couple days afterwards, because Fry's frozen, right? And they call him up, and they had called the Fry's parents to come and pick up Seymour because he had been scratching at the tube. You can clearly see Fry's there. However, the parents
no one pays attention.
No one pays attention and doesn't see what he's doing, even though Yancey Sr. says, like, okay, come on, boy, you got to help us go find our son. And he's like crying and whining. Like, that's actually the saddest sound, honestly. It's so bad because he's getting pulled away because he can see Fry. But
you know who voices Seymour, right? You know who voices the dog.
Welker,
right?
Isn't it?
Frank Welker, who is known for playing dogs.
Animals.
Like, like I think I said it last time we brought it up. He literally does the roars of the lions in Lion King with a metal
through a garbage can. Yeah,
metal garbage can.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. So, any case,
dude's talented.
He's super talented. We flash back to the present, i.e. the future, and Fry is even more sad now because now he thinks he's lost both his dog and his best friend. However, Bender the Magnificent appears out of the ground with the dog. So the dog is surrounded by dolomite and did survive. And Bender, survives enough that he can get out of there and they can help him. Okay. So get a little bit later into it, and the professor takes more DNA from it, and everybody's happy that the dog's finally going to be created. However, as he does, he realizes that the DNA is 15 years old from the time that he got fossilized. Fry believes that this is like, maybe he had a good life. He lived like 12 more years after I was frozen. He probably forgot about me a long time ago. Maybe he knew more songs. Maybe he did all this kind of stuff. And so Fry decides not to have Seymour cloned because he thinks he lived a good enough life. Now, this is where it gets sad, especially the people who were watching this before the movie had come out. It turns out...
Gave it thought.
Right. It turns out those 12 years, as we're led to believe based on this, because the last flashback before everything, but mind you, don't forget, they, for whatever reason, they leave Seymour's statue down there. So I guess the statue is staying in the sub-basement for the rest of the show, because we never see it again. But in any case, the past, last flashback of it, we have Seymour standing outside and sitting outside Panucci's Pizza waiting for Fry to return. And we just get more and more seasons going by. People are clearly getting older and all this kind of stuff. And the last scene we see is of Seymour finally lying down and closing his eyes before it goes to black.
Alluding to him dying. Yeah.
Alluding to him dying, right? So that's where Jurassic Bark ends. It's actually very sad. It's not as like... I don't know. It is sad, but it's also, I think, Luck of the Friars, like I said last time, I think Luck of the Friars still has that more poignant thing, right? Because you realize something about Fry's like relationship with his brother. This is just like really depressing. But then, you think about it. Seymour clearly didn't die this way. How could you have flash fossilized this dog when he's like lying dead on the ground and all this kind of stuff? So
I think you're thinking a little too hard about that. I think it just probably was easier just to show it was a dog standing up. Kind of thing, because that's not how, like, again, like fossils, when like you find them, they're not all put together, they're like spread out and things, and like bones are misaligned just because of that's how soil or sediment works.
But unless it was flash fossilized, which he says.
True.
Yeah, but in any case, that is Jurassic Bark for that. So let's talk about it. So you and we've talked about like the future of it and all this episode, and we'll talk about it more when the movie actually comes out. But as an episode itself, you said you like this episode, yeah?
Oh yeah, it's great. We get some more Fry lore, which we don't get a lot. We haven't gotten a lot the last two seasons of the new stuff.
No.
Nothing's really come out for that.
Yeah,
and I expected up on Fry. Yeah. He's put on the back burner. That's for sure.
He's definitely put on the back burner for now. But it's like, this is one of the original series. This is one of two of the Fry centric. Well, I call them like the Fry flashback episodes, right? Where we learn more about his life. Oh, no, sorry, the third one. Because the other one is with Michelle. So one with Michelle, one with his brother, and one with Seymour. In the Comedy Central run, we get one with his dad, which is really nice, and one with his mom.
I do like that one,
which is really nice. Yeah. Yeah, we don't get them anymore in the Hulu run so far, at least so far, right? Because it's still going. But yeah, I mean, like the episode is like there's still some funny bits. But I do think the poignancy of this episode is kind of taken out because of what happens in the future, right?
Yeah.
And they do even say like, because I wonder if this was really well planned, because Fry says I had him for 3 years. That's when I loved him. And therefore, when he died at 15, it means he lived for another 12 years. If I'm not mistaken, that's how long that Fry, the Lars, thank you, the Lars Fry stays in the past before he realizes he wants to go back to Leela.
Is that right?
I think so, and that's right when he gets fossilized. Yeah, I think it's 12 years.
Yes, it is. Yes, because that's when Bender shoots him. That Fry
his
loses his hair and his larynx.
Voice. Yeah, and he realizes he was Lars, right? So
yeah, when he looked in the mirror.
I wonder if that was, or maybe they did that because of this episode. Like, it's hard to say. Like, it seems to either be really, really good foreshadowing.
I want to say that just sounds like coincidence. Like, well, how do we do this? Well, is there any? Mind you, maybe they took more effort and cares. Like, okay. When are we going to send this Lars back to the future? How does Fry become Lars, kind of thing? Obviously, he's got to have a beard or something like that. Show him with a beard. He goes bald, so that might take time.
His voice changes or something.
Yeah,
like
voice
what made him do this? But we only have so many years for this, and like why? Like he can't be that much older than Leela, right?
Like 10ish years older. Anything more than that is just a little far
strange, right? Yeah. So I don't know. It's weird, but. I mean, I think they did pay attention to specifically what happened with the dog in order to have this, because they have Seymour show up in later episodes as well. Like Fry always has him, so it's good that they did keep up with this. But in any case,
it's well thought out. Like we can say like it was just a happy coincidence, but there's too many happy coincidences for that to be true, kind of thing, right? So
it's a conspiracy.
Yeah, like the whole thing when Bender was trying to kill past future Fry or whatever, Lars. Kind of
Lars
thing, right?
Fry, yeah.
And it just happens to blow up Mr. Panucci's, and like that's how Seymour got
fossilized. Yeah.
Flash. Thank you. I was saying Frost. I'm like, that's not right.
Yeah.
Flash fossilized, kind of thing. It's hilarious in a way because he does stand up going kind of thing. But
and then he falls over, and then that's why he's like that. Like it looks just like what it was, rather than him lying down and dying of old age. But
I'm trying to remember this.
Yeah. The main thing is that he dies waiting for Fry, right? Which is one thing, but Any case, your your favorite scene, favorite joke, MVP of the episode.
I don't know. You know what? Okay, so during the lava scene where Bender jumps in and like the professor's like, why is nobody listening to me? Lava's hot, and then like it's been too long, and then Leela's like, I'm going in after him, so she starts to take off the thing, and then he's like, Professor, lava, hot, kind of thing. And I love that because it really does break down things like guys, car, cliff. Fall, die. Like it's just like sometimes you have to be so short with like worded with people so they get it. Like don't do that. That's not good for you. Well, I'm gonna do it again. Car, cliff, fall,
hot, lava, hot, die. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I do love that. I want to say that might be my favorite joke in there.
That's a pretty good line. Yeah.
Yeah. Or the one was like, oh man, isn't it so cute that Seymour like is swimming in the things? He can swim and eat at the same time. Man, now he's doing 3 things, which is alluded that he took a big giant doggy do in the meatball sauce.
So that is pretty funny. Those ones.
Although in reality, I would not be happy.
I would be happy about that. Sure.
Throwing fists, I think. Yeah.
My favorite. I really like. I do really like the paddling, like that she's saying, like, oh yeah, they were using the paddling to sometimes like paddle and like discipline their delivery boys for a bad job or something. I don't know what it is, but her saying that, it's just such a funny thing. All these people are like taking pictures. I love the idea that 1,000 years that is what they're gonna think that the paddles were for. But
we have things like that now. I'm sure that we're wrong about the past.
Oh sure, but that's kind of what,
as we established earlier.
That's what I love about it, right?
And it's so true. It's like I wonder what would be like today, kind of thing, of what they would think would be weird in the future. And obviously it's gonna be like little gadgets for like random things and stuff like that, like those as seen in TV things, like the slap chopper or whatever like that. Those aren't around anymore, but like yeah, those as seen in TV things always feel like they're like a one-time gig.
Yeah, those are
Yeah,
those are gonna die out pretty quickly, right?
yeah.
That's one of my favorite jokes. My favorite scene, however, is the flashback one where the timeline has changed. That's probably my favorite because I think that's such a blink and you'll miss it scene that if you
Oh, with
don't
the shadows.
rewatch it with the shadows, if you don't watch it again, or if you didn't don't like pick it up the first time, then that's like, kind of
Oh
like,
yeah,
oh my, oh, like what
that's
whoa, that's crazy. So I think that would have been one of my favorite
yeah.
scenes of the
I
show.
agree
Yeah,
with you. I do like that because
yeah,
it's not just clever writing. It is like thinking forward. And mind
yeah.
you, maybe these ones were being written at the same time because again, like
Hmm.
the way we're viewing it is how they were broadcasted.
Released on
That
TV. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
chronologically.
But I'm pretty sure
Written
this one would have
wise, I'm not
been.
sure.
I think this one was quite a bit of a distance before
Before was
the
it the
Why
Why
Fry,
Fry?
Why
Yeah.
Fry, I believe. But still, even then, it's still like this season, but it's still one of those things that you're like, you like that they paid attention, and I think that's really clever. Um, yeah, I'm gonna go. I'll go Fry, my MVP. How about you?
Ooh, I'm gonna go with Seymour.
The dog? Sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Just like you had a
He
dog
did
growing
try
up.
and look for
I
Fry.
had a
Yeah.
dog growing up, and he looked for
Yeah.
Fry. And like the thing
Yeah.
is, I like the type of dog that Seymour is a little dog kind of thing, right?
Mhm.
And the dog I grew up with, he passed away when I was like 7 or 8ish or something like that. Was the same shape, but my dog was a little fluffy white crusty dog as they call him nowadays.
Right. Right.
And me and him had a good relationship, but I don't think he liked me because he was the baby, and then me, I was born and I was the baby. He didn't like that.
Oh.
But then my brother was born, and neither of us were the baby, so we bonded over that.
Right.
Yeah,
Fair enough. And I chose Fry just because like this is another Fry episode. We get to learn a little bit more about his life and everything from
walking
it.
on sunshine.
The Walking on Sunshine
Yeah,
thing. I also I just like to see Fry's like relation like with his family even, right?
I do like that too.
Like Yancey even like, oh, there's Seymour. Like he's clearly introduced Seymour to his family and they
Yeah,
all
they know
know
and love
about him and all
him.
this stuff. Like
They're joined at the
it's
hip.
such a
Yeah,
yeah, it's such a nice little thing about that. So I really like that about Fry because when Fry got frozen, I mean, in the pilot episode, right? Fry, when he wakes up and he's like, everybody I ever knew or cared about is dead. And then he goes like, woohoo, right? And he like cheers. There's a part of me that's like, I feel like he didn't actually know how good his life was. And that's kind of the downside of Fry being like, you don't realize that. He doesn't realize that until much later in his life, right?
yeah. It's one
And
of
I
those things
think
you take for
that's,
granted until you become a little
yeah,
more aged. Like we're
yeah,
in our 30s now, and
yeah.
I can kind of feel it too and stuff like that. Like if I
Mhm.
could go back in time, would I change things? And I always told myself like yes, but I wouldn't do
But
that now because my
but this is
relationship with my parents has gotten better, kind of
right.
thing, right?
Sure. And
So
and
it's
this is
just
and this is something
yeah,
with Fry is that you can definitely see this character arc throughout all of the series, right? Like he was that
yeah,
immature. If you look at season 1 Fry, and we're going to talk about this when we do like a nice discussion about the Fox run as a whole, but when you see Fry's overarching character from season 1 all the way to now, you see how he has grown. Like even now, we're at the beginning of season 5, but at the very end, Fry has developed. He has changed from like this buffoonish, childish character that we first did see him as, and now
yeah,
he's still childish in some regard, but he's
buffoon.
mature enough to understand he cares about his friends, he cares about his life, he wants to do the right. Like he's more like who you would think he would have been. Like he actually developed, and I think that's really really cool. So yeah, I definitely put Fry for this one. But cool, man. Anything
Yeah,
else to add about?
those are
Yeah.
valid points that you've said about that. And
Thank you.
yeah, I wish I would do that, but I like Seymour too much. Plus, we get to see him in a couple more episodes and stuff like
Yeah,
that,
he,
like
he does show up
Game of
again multiple
Tones,
times. Yeah,
which
Game of
which
Thrones.
um
Yeah, yeah,
which is another one that was the Fry and his mother one. I do like
yeah.
that one because we also get to see Seymour a lot in that one too.
Mhm. He shows up.
Um,
He's like, hey, you can like fit into my pocket because this is my dream, right? Yeah. He's
yeah,
also voiced by Seth MacFarlane in that
right when he
episode
talks,
when he
right,
talks.
right,
But
yeah,
any
because of
case,
Family Guy, yeah,
it's a
yeah,
dream. But any case, yeah. No, I think Seymour is a good choice for because yeah, having even though he's a dog, he's still very much a character, right? He is the one that cared enough about Fry to look for him, and he's the only one that did. Even in the one with Michelle, where we meet Michelle, right? And she tells him like, yeah, we don't know nobody knew what happened to you and all this stuff. He's like, so nobody went out looking for him? He's like, nope. Your parents were thinking about it, but they thought it'd be a waste of tax dollar money or something. Like, it's sad because literally the only thing that looked for him, or the only person who looked for him, was his dog. And that's really sweet. So yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
I think
Like
Seymour's a really good choice. Yeah.
I went to his infosphere page, and we only seen like another 8 episodes or something like that. And there's like a couple things that like maybe he was there. We heard a bark or something like that. So,
Oh,
but
sure,
he was
sure.
also in Simpsonorama, which is like
Yep.
that's the Simpsons. I don't know if that counts as canon, but yeah.
Yeah. It kind of makes a little bit, but yeah, it's
Yeah, it
kind of
was the first time we saw Futurama since the second canceling.
right.
So,
That's
yeah.
true. Yeah, and with all the evil Bart creatures. Yeah. But cool, man. Cool. Well, in that case, I guess we'll finish up here with Jurassic Bark, and yeah, we'll see everybody next time for season 5, episode 3, The Root of All Evil. All right. Well, thanks again, man. Have a
Ooh.
good one, and we'll talk to you next time.
Yeah, we'll see you next time, man. Toodaloo.
Toodaloo.